Alright, here we are on the next review, and we shall do an in-depth exploration of one of the deepest Spider-Man comic book arcs in the Wall Crawler's 45 plus year history, Maximum Carnage, a 14-issue series of Spider-Man stories which deeply explore Spider-Man's character and the world around him. I'm kidding. Maximum Carnage, in case you didn't know, is one of the biggest Spider-Man events of the 90s. It is 14 issues of Carnage. And not just the character Carnage, but just Carnage in general. This is a pretty good example of what people didn't like about the 90s. Pretty much little emphasis on story, maximum emphasis on art. Well, it not to say that it's completely like it doesn't have any story elements. It does. And the art, and to be honest, even though there's a lot of artwork in this book, the art isn't spectacular. I don't know if it's the printing quality of this book or the fact that the inking was not good on some of these issues, but some of these issues look really blurry. I don't think it's the fault of the actual people who made the comic. I think it's the fault of the people who made this collection. They didn't do such a great job reprinting it, which is weird because this could have looked probably really good if they had done as good a job on Marvel Masterworks. So in some places it doesn't. It looks pretty. The artwork looks pretty blurry, and it doesn't make it as much fun to read. I think the artwork that looks best is by Mark Bagley. Like I said, one of my favorite Spider-Man artists of all time. But his issues usually look a lot more sharper and clearer than the issues by other artists. But even so, the art on the issues by Web of Spider-Man and the issues by just Spider-Man titles, it doesn't look all that great. It just looks like pretty generic artwork, and it doesn't really look all that great. Although I do like Sal Buscema's artwork. He did the artwork for the Spectacular Spider-Man issues. This story does have a theme, which is basically saying that in any situation, you can never go completely that sounds terrible. Basically the whole point of this book is that to persevere, to hang on to hope even in the bleakest of situations. That's pretty much the gist of the theme. And it's not a bad theme to explore in a book showcasing the villain Carnage. It's actually not a bad idea. And if you want to read issues with Carnage in them, this isn't a bad collection to get. But that theme isn't really that strong when you add in a bajillion characters and stretch it out over 14 parts. This could have easily been a 6-issue story arc, but it's just stretched, and I don't know. Well, maybe it's kind of similar to my Batman City of Crime review, in which after reading it once, I don't really feel the need to read it again. There's just not much substance in this book. It's just fight after fight after fight after fight after fight. And in between those fights, there are little moments with Mary Jane and stuff about Peter's father, who is actually a clone created by the Chameleon and the Green Goblin. But you don't find that out till later. So maybe I just spoiled it for you if you read this book but haven't read stuff later on. Sorry. Um, so yeah, there's not much substance. This book features some characters from the '90s that aren't really that famous anymore, or maybe they weren't even famous when in the '90s, like Deathlock. I mean, do a lot of comic book fans really remember Deathlock? Starfire has a kind of '90s suit look, with a jacket, I think, and we get a lot of carnage in here, causing destruction and whatnot. And to be honest, most of the story just isn't that interesting. Like I said, it's got an okay theme, and the theme could have worked around a very good story. It could have worked around a pretty memorable story, but while actually Maximum Carnage is pretty memorable, but it's just because it's a big event. So, I would say this is good for people who want to read '90s comics. More for history than an actual good story. I didn't really enjoy reading this book all that much. I do have some nostalgic connections with it, because when I was much younger, a cousin of mine gave me the first issue of Spider-Man Unlimited, which is the first issue of Maximum Carnage, coincidentally. And he also gave me this disc, which had SNES ROMs, and one of them was Maximum Carnage, so I would play the Maximum Carnage game a lot on the computer. I always lost it around the same place, but no matter how many times I played it, I still kept on going because it was fun. It's a pretty difficult game too. I was just playing it recently, and I'm actually a little better at it now than I was when I was a kid, but it's still pretty hard. I've only gone as far as and where they go into the park. I think it's after. Well, I'm getting off topic here. I've gotten pretty far, but I think I've gotten about halfway through the game. So overall, I recommend this more for Carnage or comic book historian enthusiasts. But honestly, it's not that enjoyable to read. I don't regret paying the $30 I paid for it. Actually, I don't know why, because it's not that fun to read. But it's a nice comic. It's a nice long comic. But I just mostly flip through it to look through the pictures or read like a few issues like that I do actually find that are enjoyable. But other than that, I would say skip Maximum Carnage. So that's it for this time. Next review, I don't know what next review will be. But until then, signing off.